My name is Tim, and this is the I Am Not Responsible for This Content Show. Good morning, world. My name is Tim, and this is the I Am Not Responsible for This Content Show, where you ask the questions and I give the answers. Over the course of 1 week, I did the unthinkable. Dropping a link to an anonymous message box to everyone with access to me, I left it sitting there for anyone and everyone to submit a question. And given this was the very first episode, I thought I'd put a spin on it by not putting a spin on it. That's right, I left it to my family, friends, and anyone with access to the internet to ask me questions anonymously. No rules, just questions, leaving it completely open to the unknown. What I had expected was an assortment of silly and random lighthearted questions that would tickle me silly. What I got instead was hit by an 18-wheeler packed with raw philosophical questions. Questions that echoed through my mind as I stared deep into the ceiling as though the answers were encrypted within the stucco. Questions about love, honesty, and silliness. Straight up nonsense stirred into this abysmal concoction of hard-hitting questions. Given most of them are questions about me, I thought, this feels like a game of 20 questions. And so that will be the name of this episode. Episode 1. More than 20 questions. So without further ado, here are those questions. And here are my answers. Who are you? This question was a meteor that hit me so hard my space-time continuum is still rippling from the impact. These simple 3 words propped up by a question mark obliterated me for an entire week. Who are you? Who am I? A philosophically impossible question. My programming kicked in with, I'm Tim. Expounding upon that, every answer felt unsatisfying. But we'll start there. Sure. My name is Tim. Multiple neuroscientist told my folks that I would never speak again, and now I won't shut up. My mission is to inspire those blocked creatives around me, to show up for them by showing up for myself, by jumping headfirst into the unknown, silencing my inner critic and allowing myself the privilege of expansion. And my deepest hope is for those around me to take the plunge into potential with me. I am an enjoyer of many pastimes, spending time in nature, keeping fit and eating right, basketball, painting, and the arts, trying new things when the opportunities arise. But writing and speaking, to me, is more than a pastime. It's what sparks the fire in my eyes. I could and will talk about any aspect of writing with anyone, or anything. I'll talk to a brick wall about it. Writing, to me, is magic. And in creating this podcast, I hope that you feel that magic. I hope you laugh, I hope you think, but most of all, I hope you have fun listening. But I didn't write these, you did. And the rest of these questions will reveal more to you about who I am than answering this question ever could. Enjoy the rest of the show. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Sometimes in life, the most familiar concepts can become strangers to us with one question. Rhode Island was always Rhode Island until this dropped into my inbox. And, upon extensive research, there are 2 competing theories for why it was named this way. No one can say for sure, not even the experts. Theory 1. An Italian explorer by the name of Giovanni de Verrazzano compared it to the Greek island of Rhodes. Theory 2. Adrian Block, a Dutch explorer, named it Root Island, meaning Red Island, 90 years later. Adrian Block, this guy is clearly to blame. He was named after a shape, so it only makes sense he'd name Rhode Island after a color and completely miss the fact that it isn't an island. To me, this is sound logic, but you are free to debate in the comments. Why do you think it's so hard to be honest with ourselves and with each other? This is a highly subjective question, and it could be many things for different people. Being raised to be deathly afraid of the consequences of telling the truth, our parents being sources of discipline and hard implementation of correction without a balance of love, can also result in pathologically lying adults. There's also wanting people to believe you have it all together for their respect, their admiration, their praise. Not wanting to feel like a burden for constantly being in a state of helplessness is another one that rings true, especially for men who were generationally raised on showing emotion is weakness. Being told by past partners or friends, "You're too emotional," or "You're too much," certainly echoes through a man's mind when he chooses to lie about being okay rather than admitting he is not. And for me recently, I learned that there were fragments of all of the above. There are people in my life who I've never hidden a thing from, who I've always told the truth to, but there are friends who I've not been honest with. There are times I was not honest with family, and I've come clean in regards to these things recently in my journey of self-discovery. To anyone I've lied to, I am sincerely sorry that I did. I would like to think I operate on a clean slate now, that I really do have nothing to hide. It wasn't always this way, but I found a great power in the truth. It's taken a great deal of practice, but the truth has set me free. I'm not perfect, and I will continue to practice, and may you hold me accountable should I stumble. Amen. Do I test people before I trust them? Do I forgive easily? No, to the first question. It's always been quite the opposite. I'm an open book to anyone who wants to read me. I've always been. I have no reason not to trust somebody that I just met. I'm not just going to give the guy making me my sandwich my social security number, but I'll tell anyone anything that they want to ask. If you don't know me, I hope that this podcast is proof of that. However, there are people that I do not trust and would not trust. There are people that I keep at an arm's length, and there are people that I've banished to the shadow realm. Not because I tested them and they failed, but because I trusted them and they have failed, repeatedly. To me, there is a huge difference in these two concepts. Testing is a deliberate act of emotional manipulation, calculated, trusting, and then having that trust broken, repeatedly, is a heartbreaking sign of disrespect. Happens once, things happen. Happens thrice, knowing you's been nice. None of this has anything to do with forgiveness. I've forgiven anyone who's wronged me, the way that I would want to be forgiven by the people I've wronged. And I find myself to be incredibly forgiving. I was too forgiving at one point in my life. Someone could beat me to a pulp, and the old me would have said, "Man, you must have had a rough day." I would have probably hit me too. "Could I get you some ice for that fist? So sorry I broke it with my face." Forgiveness does not equal a place in my life. I can forgive you and decide it's best we take our separate paths. There's nothing wrong with that, and ultimately it is necessary. Often difficult beyond imagination, but necessary. To summarize this colorfully, my inner child is who you will first meet, always. Open to talking about anything and everything. But my inner parent stands quietly to the side, and if something happens and my playmate shows signs of being harmful, my inner parent might step in and ask them for accountability. And if they fail to show it and then correct it, my inner child will have to find another playmate. Can you give me the projected forecast of the economy's recovery over the next 5 years? I surely cannot do that, friend. However, as someone who is not a financial advisor, I can give you a huge boost to beat out the economy in 5 years' time. Chickens are the crypto of nature. Buy chickens right now. Have you seen the price of eggs? Skyrocketing. Astronomical. They're on an up curve that Bitcoin could only dream about. Spend every last dime in your Roth IRA on the largest plot of land. Forget that 10% APR. Toss those quarter annual 13.5% dividends out the window. What you're looking for is multiplicative growth. Chickens, my dear future farmer, are multiplicative. If you start with 10 hens and 1 rooster, completely achievable with your savings now, you'd get 50 eggs a week. Sell 25, hatch 25. Continue this pattern. In 10 years' time, This would equate to a 1.1 trillion hens hatched with a staggering output of 5 trillion eggs a week. Your neighbors might not be thrilled. Give them a lifetime supply of eggs. Still not thrilled? Buy their land and use their house as a hen hatchery. Now your neighbors are chickens. Just don't forget to remember me when you solve the egg crisis. You heard it here first. How have you learned to identify your patterns of self-sabotaging behavior? Banger question. Thank you so much for this thoughtful submission, Anon. We are often very unaware of the very patterns that we participate in on a day-to-day basis, and awareness without corrective action is the first step. Simply saying out loud, "I'm death scrolling again, aren't I?" as you pull out your phone, even if you then open your social media and get lost in it for 20 minutes right after, the important thing is that you are identifying your actions before you fulfill them. Or, "I'm about to hit the vape again, aren't I?" followed by you chain hitting it like a steam engine train. Go off, Lil Thomas. But as you become aware, you will then begin to automatically shift towards healing from it. You're essentially building a bridge between the part of your brain that does things subconsciously and the part that is aware of these things. Building that bridge, you'll begin to feel a difference spark in your life. Another priceless tool is silence. Be still, and answers come to those who wait. Meditation works for many. Sitting still with your thoughts. Journaling every morning has been my morning ritual for over 130 days now. Unapologetically writing whatever comes to my mind. What I found is that my morning musings shifted into calls to action, which then became action plans that eliminated many of my self-destructive habits altogether. It has opened my eyes to the things attached to my identity that do not serve me. And I have not eliminated all of them, but that leads me to my third and final point, giving yourself grace for not being perfect. At the end of the day, you are human. Trying to identify that mean voice in your head is helpful. You know, the one that talks like this. "I'm so dumb. How stupid of me to forget that. What's wrong with me? I'll never ditch this habit." Try practicing talking to yourself the way you talk to a best friend going through the same struggles that you are. Would you tell your BFF that they're stupid for going back to that toxic ex? Don't answer that if your answer is yes. But you see my point. Why would you be mean to yourself if you are not mean to your best friend? It will take practice, but you'll be surprised at how much further a self-kindness can go than self-hatred. Can you tell me more about dinosaurs? I thought you would never ask, and whoever submitted this question either knows me or doesn't and got extremely lucky, because I'm about to tell you too much about dinosaurs. One of my first childhood memories is of playing with my glow-in-the-dark dinosaurs under the bed, past my bedtime. Don't tell my mother. Some could say that my rampant imagination used to run on fossil fuel. I did see Jurassic Park at far too early an age, and as a result, I had recurring nightmares about velociraptors eating my entire family until I graduated high school. They aren't capable of opening doors like in the movies, you know, and T-Rexes have vision comparable to a bird of prey, so if you ever encounter one in the wild, don't stand perfectly still. You will absolutely be a free meal if you do. Don't try to outrun it either. Your best bet is hiding behind a tree. You're welcome for the survival tip. As a child, I spent hundreds of hours building virtual zoos. Zoo Tycoon, the complete collection. It was the best Christmas present I ever got. Breeding brontosauruses, building symbiotic environments where woolly mammoths and African elephants could mingle and be besties. Dropping guests into the Allosaurus exhibit because it was cheaper than hiring another zookeeper to feed them. Saving my game before setting all of my dinosaurs free on over 10,000 visitors, blocking the exit and watching chaos unfurl. Those were the glory days, and I will forever spend my life trying to relive that high. My favorite dinosaur, of course, is the Mosasaurus, the underwater Tyrannosaurus. That's not an official name for it. I just coined it now. They do not grow as large as you see in the movies. They are the length of a school bus, certainly not as long as a football field. And the largest ones were only about half of a football field. Still a fascinating predator of the sea, and one of the many reasons I do not swim further than 30 feet out into the ocean. We have only mapped 26% of the ocean and explored less than 5% of it. And there are thousands of species that remain undiscovered within its depths. Should the mosasaur come out of hiding, I refuse to be its first victim. No thank you. Can I swim? I have a +5 in my swimming stat. I've always loved swimming, outside of in the ocean, or any body of water I cannot see the bottom of, because mosasauri. I can swim fast, but I cannot outswim a mosasaurus. We interrupt the scheduled programming to bring you The Love Seat. Tonight, we have our first contestant. We'll ask him 5 of the audience's questions, which all circled around the topic of love. We'll sit him down and ask him these 5 questions. Without further ado, let's bring out contestant number 1. Welcome to our show, contestant number 1. Let's get this show on the road. Our first question will make you feel like you're right back in high school, dropping anonymous sticky notes on your crush's desk and hope she doesn't recognize your handwriting. Our first question of the night: do you know if someone has feelings for you? No one has told me they do, and I tend not to pick up on subtle hints, or even more grand hints. I don't pick up on hints. However, after my rant about buying chickens and my affinity for prehistoric life, I'm positive that at least one listener has fallen head over heels for me. I know that's right. Eat, pray, pterodactyls, as they say. On to the next question. How's your love life? I will find the love of my life while loving life. And so right now, I'm just loving life, baby. And although I am in no rush to get back into the dating scene, when it finds me, it finds me. But for now, I am happily single. And have you ever had feelings for a friend, contestant number 1? Of course I have. Who hasn't? In establishing friendships, there's always that question of what if this is my person? Especially as a bond with somebody grows deeper, you grow more fond of that human. But if the foundation of the relationship was built on friendship, these invisible and unspoken boundaries pop up. What ifs riddle the mind, and the friendship suddenly becomes this thing that must be protected from any transparency on deeper emotions. I embrace feelings, I do. Feelings that I have for people and feelings that they have for me. But in my next relationship, I'm not looking for just feelings, because feelings alone do not make a strong foundation for a successful relationship. I'm looking for concrete certainty, for someone to be able to say to my face that they see me, they love me, and that they want to spend the rest of their life with me. And not just say it, mean it. Have you ever been in love? Being in love is a magical experience, and I've had the honor of being in love a few times. And with every instance of love, I grew, I learned, I evolved. I'm sincerely grateful for each of the women I loved. Each taught me something valuable about myself that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Mistakes I won't repeat, what to look for in a partner, and what not to look for in a partner. But in reality, I am thankful. Thank you, past lovers, for the lessons I've learned. One day, my future wife might thank you too. She probably won't, but it sounded poetic. And with that, we're on to our last question of the evening. Is hearing I love you the key to feeling loved for you? No. No, 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 no. Show me, or don't say it at all. And that's a wrap. Wait, I thought you were going to bring out a potential match or nope. Thank you for coming out, contestant number 1. We appreciate you flying halfway across the continent to answer only 5 questions. And as we say to all of our guests, we're sorry you had to pay the airfare. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Love Seat. And now, back to your scheduled programming. Am I currently happy? I feel as though I am much happier than I've ever been. The more I create, the happier I am, and I've been in a great creative space as of late. I'm, as they say, living the dream. My dream. Not necessarily the end product of said dream, but I believe that happiness is found within the pursuit of happiness and not at the end of it. I'm happier now than I've ever been, and as I continue to open myself up to greater and greater creativities, I will only become happier. Do I tend to overthink? To imply that overthinking exists suggests that there must be a quantity of thought that any one particular subject deserves. Just kidding. I get what you're asking, and yes, I do overthink. Have I ever broken a bone? I broke my 5th metacarpal, my pinky, my junior year of high school. I have no idea how I did it. The last thing that I remember about that day is stealing a bottle of cheap wine with a friend, skipping a day of school to get drunk in the woods behind YMCA, jumping into a random hot tub in my boxers, and stealing a golf cart to crash it into a tree. I woke up face first in the dirt with scratches and cuts across my body, and my right pinky knuckle was the size of a golf ball. I refuse to touch alcohol nowadays, and I haven't for some time now. This is one of the 100,000 reasons why. Whoever and whatever takes over during a blackout is not me. And that thought frightens me out of having even one drink. Still a fun story to tell, though. If UFOs are good beings, why don't they get out and introduce themselves? This is a fantastic question. Thank you for the submission. In science fiction, we tend to put aliens on an intellectual pedestal. And if aliens are here on Earth, they are already factually capable of space travel eons ahead of the technology we have today. But even still, humanity is like a very scary thing. Our dominion over the planet and our lack of symbiosis with the environment would be very daunting to an alien. That and humans have a long history of fearing what they don't know and acting on that fear. Any studious alien that picked up a world history book probably relayed back to the mothership that humans are more inclined to kill and dissect one of their kind before they'd ever, attempt a conversation with one. Given how vast space is and how there are stars in the sky billions of years older than our own sun, surely it is more likely that Earth has been visited by aliens than not from a probability standpoint. Yet, we see no completely glaring proofs of it as of yet. Why not? This is not a UFO podcast, but still something to think about. Do you have breakfast every day? For many years, I participated in what millennials like to call intermittent fasting, considering only my enormous cup of iced coffee to be a breakfast. But for some months now, I've been practicing cooking myself breakfast every morning as a part of my morning ritual, and I've gotten quite good at it. However, on mornings where I must leave the nest to tend to errands and can't afford the luxury of cooking myself breakfast, I whip up a smoothie. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I used to laugh at this, but it is breakfast who got the last laugh. Breakfast for me is now the most important meal of the day because cooking is an act of self-care. And when you care enough to make yourself breakfast and allow yourself the time to enjoy that meal, you set the tone for your entire day. What is my eye color? My eyes, per my license, say hazel. However, I, as well as others I've asked, have confirmed that they change color. When I wear a brightly colored shirt or am in a overly happy mood, my eyes turn an undeniable blue. When they're at their greenest, they still have slivers of blue painted within them, and I found that my left eye will turn greener than my right eye. Or maybe I have that backwards. Mirrors are such a tricky thing. But to save myself from having to explain this to every person who asks, I just say Hazel. The rest of your questions, I noticed, followed a fun little theme, and so I thought to group them together. This segment is called Blank or Blank. And now that we're jumping in, you're about to see why. Summer or winter? Winter. Winter all day. See, I suffer from reverse seasonal depression. I've been making it a point to get out in the sun more and will never turn down an opportunity to be outside. But being outside with a cool and crisp breeze? Unbeatable. It's like your skin is chewing sweet mint gum. Where my friends could be found bundled up shivering, you'll find me wearing a sleeveless shirt and shorts. Some call me a polar bear, but those who do, I call lizard people. Every last one of them. Also, there is a reason that the holidays are celebrated during winter. Whoever invented the calendar and decided holidays should fall on the latter end of the calendar lived in Florida. And fellow Floridians, they were looking out for you. Voice messages or texting? Voice messages. Here lately, I've been trying to stare at my phone less, and nothing makes me happier than seeing an audio clip from an old friend or a new one. Audio clips make me entirely happier. Send me a hello. Tell me what's on your mind. It always feels so much more genuine when you are saying it and not typing it. Stay home or go out? If by go out you mean party or clubbing, stay home. Those days are well behind me. If by go out you mean trying new foods and new experiences, breathing fresh air, making unforgettable memories out and about, then I would pick out. But I am privy to nights in as well, because some of the best nights are nights spent in. And let's be honest, we cannot go out more than once a week. I'm 30. Rain or snow? Snow technically is rain, just frozen, but I will play along. As someone who grew up in the mountains but currently lives in Florida, nothing beats the sensation of being snowed in with the warmth of a crackling fireplace, toasting your toes. And the holidays don't feel the same without snow. However, the ambiance of a thunderstorm rolling in nose deep in my journal or my laptop. God's greatest contribution to his artists was a good thunderstorm. And the sound of heavy rain against a tin roof, both are such standalone ambiances that, can I say both? I'll say both. Both. One last question submitted by someone who very clearly needed some advice. This is also going to be thematic to the next podcast, so brace yourselves. The question is as follows. What do you think? Should I call my girlfriend out for not shaving, or let it be? Fellow listener, your girlfriend is her own autonomous being and is probably fully aware of the forest down yonder. There are simply more important things in the grand scheme of life, and at the end of the day, is a little rug burn that bad? If this is a gorillas in the mist situation, though, you should probably tell her she might hear you out, or she might lock you in an exhibit with a real gorilla. Only time will tell. And please update me anonymously as this story unfolds. And that concludes the very first episode of I Am Not Responsible for This Podcast. Please try to remember that. You ask the questions. I'm only answering them. Thank you so much for not only listening, but also participating and sending me so many thoughtful questions. I hope you learned a lot about me and maybe a thing about yourself along the way. I appreciate all of your love and support. And if you made it this far, please don't forget to like and comment. something something algorithm something something subscribe. On the next episode, I'll be asking my audience for something more specific. It's already brewing, and so I look forward to seeing what you submit. Until then, Tim is signing out. Catch you guys on the next one, and thank you so much for tuning in.